Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about blockchain promises. So let's start with this. We all know that promises were made and promises were broken. We even know that some promises were made but are just impossible to achieve or keep, at least given the current state of the technology. But there is one promise that has been kept. The promise of the promise. The blockchain has kept its promise of immutability minus classic ETH, and with smart contract implementation that promise has been reinforced. Now, why am I telling you this? Because today, after 2 years of work, we are making a major breakthrough. The Ecoval application is on the cusp of launching, and your support to the Goma Stake Pool has kept many blockchain enthusiasts stay active where the blockchain is the most needed. It means a great deal to me that what I foresee is being kept alive even when all odds are against us. As you may have heard, Goma has been the theater of a major war and the city is still under rebel occupation with limited resources and it is practically cut from the world. The banking system has been shut, most formal services have ceased and it has been a challenge to operate in the city. But thanks to the blockchain, our friends and family members are able to be assisted and rely on the meager blockchain revenues to survive. The promise of self-custody has been kept. When banks closed, we kept our wallets. Now, before we jump into the details, I want to tell you this. I think that in order to understand the potential of this technology, we need to first look at the root of humanity, which is communication. We communicate in order to survive. We communicate in order to thrive, to build something together. Communication is everything, but it comes in many forms. And of course, in this day and age, it comes in the form of promises. But what is a promise? A promise is an engagement. It's a commitment to act or react in an expected manner. It is based on trust and it comes in many shapes and forms. A child only knows one kind of promise, the ones made by parents or caregivers, people who have all the decision-making power and all the resources, and the child being a mere recipient of the care that is given. So the child only knows about promises that are made and kept. As we grow up, we realize that the world is a more complicated place and we enter the world of making promises. And here, promises come in a variety of different shapes and forms, depending on how strong the social net is around us, the level of trust that we can establish, and the consequences of not keeping promises. The strength of the promises that we make varies a lot. In developed nations, a promise is often made through contracts. It could be an insurance policy, a service agreement between two companies, or even the constitution of a nation. In those parts of the world where institutions are strong, a promise is something that can be relied upon because it has been established that the society has put aside a lot of resources and time in order to make sure that the promise will be kept. Insurance companies exist for decades, sometimes even centuries. Policing resources are maintained over long periods of time and entire government departments are established with the sole purpose of keeping certain social promises enforced. A promise is a great deal in societies where it can be trusted. In developing nations, promises exist to varying degrees. They may be no more than an oral agreement or a handshake, or they may be documented but not really enforced. There is a huge cost to pay in both cases. Political conflicts, economic corruption, and low human development can all be traced back to a lack of means to establish and enforce promises. For many years, I had been perplexed by the inability of seemingly reasonable people to achieve the common good. From my home city of Goma, I aimed to reduce waste and focus on what is commonly agreed by the population. This led me to studying economics with the aim of understanding the mechanisms of reducing waste and optimizing resource allocation. To my great surprise, many of the theories were not achievable, mainly due to the concept of a promise. Since then, I have learned and taught a few about the concept of blockchain and how it can help us solve global poverty by reducing many forms of inefficiencies, wastes. Maybe a quick illustration can help. Imagine you are a farmer in Africa and you go to the local market and you find that you can sell your produce for twice the price in a city 100 miles away. You pack your car and you hit the road to the city in order to sell your produce, but you find out that on the way you have to pay a toll and the toll is equivalent to half of the profit that you were expecting to make, so the trip is not worth it anymore. So you turn around and you go back home. In this example, the only thing that stood between the farmer and his profit was the inability to establish a promise. If there was no way to guarantee that he would be able to sell his produce at a premium in the big city, then he couldn't make the trip because the risk was too high, and this is actually a very simple example. There are countless other examples that can be found across the globe where the inability to establish promises results in poor decisions and lost opportunities. But the blockchain is changing this. It gives us the ability to make promises in places where it was never possible before. Think about it. When you make a smart contract on the blockchain, you are essentially making a promise. And if the conditions of the promise are met, then the transaction will go through. If the conditions are not met, the transaction won't go through. The blockchain offers us a way to establish promises in developing nations, and if we can do that, then we can solve poverty. I mean poverty in the sense of suboptimal outcomes. We can solve poverty because we can enable people to make better decisions. We can enable people to plan ahead because the blockchain allows us to establish a framework where promises can be made and kept. That's why launching Ecoval is such a big deal for us. We've managed to build a product that can bring together buyers and sellers in developing nations and allow them to trade using cryptocurrencies. We're creating a service which allows makers and takers to establish their needs. Ecoval as a P2P exchange has many applications. Money transfer is the most basic of its forms, but think about the Craigslist or Kijiji of this world. Wouldn't you want the ad of a germ you have found to be temporarily delisted if you can set aside a deposit? Smart contracts and Ecoval services will be able to offer such opt-in service. This is a tremendous achievement, and it is the result of years of hard work. And I think that if you knew the story behind the scenes, the challenges that we had to overcome in order to make this happen, you would understand just how much this matters. Translating a non-custodial P2P service involves a lot of parameters. Think of a service whose rules and outcomes are defined by their actors. How do you handle confirmations? How do you handle disputes? What is a simple aim of exchanging funds required numerous smart contracts. This is a major breakthrough for us, but it's also a major breakthrough for the people who are waiting to use the platform. So much is spent in overseas money transfers due to commissions and exchange fees, while some transfer flows have their corresponding reverse flows. In other words, it is possible that a person wanting to send money from A to B can be matched to a person wanting to send more or less the same amount from B to A, and these two people can now collaborate trust-free with the knowledge that the funds will be delivered as promised. The trustlessness of the blockchain does not mean that there is no trust. It means that trust is already established, as in it is free, as opposed to the need to pay for it. So Ecoval is a free trust service. We've kept building a product that will considerably facilitate the transfer of value, and we aim to make good on that promise by launching Ecoval. We are going to bring to life one form of the many promises of the blockchain, and we are proud of what has been achieved so far. Now I want to ask you guys to also keep the promise of the blockchain by continuing to support the young enthusiasts who have seen the power of their crypto wallets by maintaining or adding your delegation to the Go Mistake pool. We cannot do this without you, as the blockchain still relies on the community. We are confident we are close to launching Ecoval, and we want to keep counting on you, as the next step will rely on your continued participation to spread the word. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being part of this community. Keep the promise, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.